decided on the basis of dubious facts and untested legal theories to criminally prosecute a former president of the United States. And not only that, this is the special part. He decided to do it after the former president of the United States had announced that he was going to run against Attorney General Garland's boss, didn't he?
Senator, are you referring to going after a political opponent?
I think so. Now,
Senator Cruz would be next, but he's not here, so I call on Senator Kennedy.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Bondi, welcome. Congratulations. Can we agree that legitimacy is important to America's criminal justice system?
Yes, Senator.
Can we agree that legitimacy is important to the Department of Justice, which in part administers our criminal justice system?
Yes, Senator.
And if Americans come to believe that our criminal justice system or our Department of Justice is acting illegitimately, that makes Americans less likely to accept the results of that system, does it not?
Yes, Senator.
And that makes Americans less likely to follow the substantive laws that we pass that are administered by the Department of Justice. Isn't that true?
Yes, Senator.
And if that happens, we have chaos, don't we?
Chaos.
And the social contract is breached, isn't it?
Yes.
Do you remember a person by the name of Michael Avenatti?
Yes.
Several years ago, he was a media star here in Washington.
An attorney, correct?
Yes. He was a media star. And many members of our media loved him because he persistently bashed Donald Trump. And he was on TV every day. He was on CNN more than Wolf Blitzer. Do you know where Mr. Avenatti is today?
I believe he's sitting in prison, Senator.
He's in jail because he was a crook. And the Department of Justice helped put him there, didn't it?
Yes, Senator.
Do you remember a gentleman by the name of Sam Bankman-Fried?
Yes, Senator.
Boy genius. So smart and so powerful that he thought he could command the tides. So smart and so powerful and so rich that he would go to meetings with serious people like Bill Clinton, like Tony Blair, looking like a slob, looking like a fourth runner-up to a John Belushi lookalike contest. And he thought it was cute. Where's Mr. Bankman-Fried today?
I believe he is in prison, and I believe that's from the Netflix series I saw as well.
Mm-hmm. Because he's a crook. And who helped put him there?
The Department of Justice, Senator.
Can we agree that there's some really, really good men and women at the Department of Justice?
Many, many great men and women in the Justice Department, as well, Senator, as all the law enforcement agencies that fall within the Department of Justice. They're out there risking their lives, especially the law enforcement officers, every single day.
Can we agree, though, that there have been and may be today some bad people at the Department of Justice?
Yes, Senator.
We don't know for sure because for the last 4 years, the curtains there have been tightly drawn. But I think a minority of people there, have delegitimized America's criminal justice system. The most destabilizing act that I saw in the past 4 years, maybe in the history of the department, is when Attorney General Garland decided on the basis of dubious facts and untested legal theories to criminally prosecute a former president of the United States. And not only that, this is the special part. He decided to do it after the former president of the United States had announced that he was going to run against Attorney General Garland's boss, didn't he?
Senator, are you referring to going after a political opponent?
I think so. Now, this is one person's opinion. That kind of stupid takes a plan. And I say that because, number one, this is America. That had never happened before in America. That's the sort of thing that happens in a country whose Powerball jackpot is 287 chickens and a goat. It doesn't happen here. And I call it stupid because it broke the seal. It broke the seal. It normalized it. There are a lot of ambitious prosecutors in America, Democrat and Republican. And I'll bet you right now there's some prosecutor in a particular state thinking about, well, maybe I ought to file criminal charges against President Biden's inner circle for conspiring to conceal his mental decline. And that's the road we're headed down. And you've got to fix it, Counselor. You've got to fix it. And here's, in my judgment, what I would ask you to do. Find out who the bad guys are and the bad women and get rid of them. Find out who the good people are and lift them up. But do it on the basis of facts and evidence and fairness. Because the temptation of some people is going to be, they're going to tell you, look, two wrongs don't make a right, but they do make it even. Don't resist that temptation. Help us restore legitimacy to the Department of Justice.
Thank you, Senator.
And when Senator John Kennedy said the words, "It broke the seal," you could feel the room change. You could feel the era change. You could feel the consequence of something far larger than this one witness, this one nominee, this one hearing. Because everything he built to in that exchange with Pam Bondi wasn't ultimately about Trump versus Garland, or red versus blue, or even about the raw legal theory of prosecuting a former president. Kennedy was narrating a philosophical breach point in American history, a breach in legitimacy, a breach in restraint, a breach in the understanding of what the American Department of Justice is supposed to be versus what it can become when ambition replaces principle. He walked her step by step through the logic. If legitimacy goes, the system goes. If Americans stop believing the Department of Justice operates neutrally, if Americans stop believing that prosecutors weigh evidence instead of ideology, if Americans stop believing that the law is above faction and not beneath it, chaos is not just possible, chaos is inevitable. Because the law only works when the people consent to being ruled by it, and they only consent when they believe the process is fair. Kennedy reached back to two recent cultural celebrity meteors, Michael Avenatti and Sam Bankman-Fried, both crowned by media, both venerated by institutions, both publicly adored right up until the moment the Department of Justice brought them down, not because they were political enemies, not because they held the wrong belief, but because they were crooks, because evidence and law required it. That was Kennedy's point. DOJ is not inherently corrupt. There are good men and women inside that institution who do their job honorably, with risk to their own safety, with fidelity to the Constitution. But the damage the stain can be inflicted by a small number of bad actors shielded by curtains, protected by opacity, emboldened by power without oversight. And when Kennedy crossed the Rubicon of this hearing, the moment he said the most destabilizing act of the last 4 years was Merrick Garland's decision to criminally prosecute a former president who was the political opponent of the sitting president, he did not use the word lightly. He used it to describe the primal breach, the moment precedent snapped, the moment that "it doesn't happen here" turned into "it now can." The moment the taboo shattered and retribution politics became thinkable by everyone. That is the true fear in this room. That is the fear Kennedy named out loud. Not merely injustice, but normalization of weaponization. The normalization of using prosecution as a political strategy instead of a last resort moral obligation. Because once the seal is broken, future ambitious prosecutors, red or blue, begin to imagine power differently. They begin to imagine that prosecution can be tactical, that prosecution can be retaliatory, that prosecution can be part of political strategy. And that is how republics fall, not in explosions, in shrugs, in normalization, in tit for tat, in the slow erosion of the moral boundary between justice and vengeance. Kennedy told Bondi that her task, if confirmed, is not revenge. Her task is not to even the scoreboard in the other direction. Her task is to surgically identify who inside the department violated the minimal obligation to equal application of law, and remove them, not because they hurt the wrong person, but because they betrayed legitimacy itself. This hearing is not just a commentary on Garland. It is a commentary on this moment in American democracy, a moment where executive agencies have become ideological battlegrounds, a moment where every case is read as partisan, a moment where half the country believes the other half has captured the architecture of government to weaponize it, a moment where we are so close to abandoning the assumption that the DOJ is a place of law, not warfare. Legitimacy is not an academic concept. It is the load-bearing wall of the American experiment. Lose it, and the social contract phrase. Lose it, and compliance becomes optional. Lose it, and the idea of neutral justice becomes a relic. Lose it, and America becomes indistinguishable from the very countries we once invoked as cautionary tales. Kennedy's warning was not subtle, it was not coded, it was not symbolic. It was a direct moral alarm to the nominee sitting in front of him, and to the American public watching in real time. He was saying, the Republic is at the brink of something dangerously irreversible, and this hearing, this exact one, is evidence that there are still some within Congress who recognize the stakes and are willing to speak the unvarnished truth about it, because this is what oversight is supposed to be, not spectacle, accountability, not partisan entertainment, moral warning, not political vengeance, constitutional defense. This hearing reminds the country of a truth too many forgot. Justice cannot survive selective application. Legitimacy cannot survive secret fiefdom inside the DOJ. And democracy cannot survive a Department of Justice that acts as a partisan extension of executive power. This is the line. This is the moment. This is the pivot history will judge. And if legitimacy is restored, not through scoring points, but through transparency, discipline, humility, and a renewed respect for the sacred neutrality of the law, the Republic will endure. But if legitimacy collapses, everything collapses with it. This is the Congress Brief. Subscribe. Help us expose power. Support our work so we can continue to bring these hearings to the American people, unfiltered, unbroken, and unafraid.